Hello, I'm Korma, and welcome. In this series, we're going to show you how to cook a wide variety of international vegetarian cuisine from over 30 countries. And in this edition, it's sort of a special edition, as you've probably noticed, we're going to show you how to cater for a vegetarian children's party, consisting of carob fudge cake, Gopal's famous veggie nut burgers, and crispy dal wafers, papadums. So let's begin. Getting into the mood here. But I must admit, this thing is driving me mad. I prefer my chef's hat. I'll put that on when the kids come. Let's begin by creaming our butter with our sugar and our vanilla here in our big bowl. This is the first step for all successful cake making. Let's get all our butter out of there. Into here. Let's add our sugar and our vanilla essence. You can use any sugar you prefer. Raw sugar, brown sugar. Honey doesn't work with this cake, however. Let's cream all these things up together. I think what we'll do at this point is use our white thing here, our spatula, like so. This is the creaming process. I like to use my hands for this rather than using one of those electric beaters. Okay, now let's add our carob powder in this bowl over here. And we're going to add half a cup of hot water. I've got some in our pot over here. Let's just top it up a bit. This is ever so simple when you get the routine down. Just a little slurp more. Right. A little bit at a time. A dash more, I think. Okay. Looking quite dark and ominous, isn't it? Wonderful smell, though. Actually, I'm going to bring it a little closer, and I'm going to add a slurp more water to loosen this up a bit. That's better. Now it's looking good. Excuse me while I don't want to splash this around the kitchen, especially on my nice clean apron. Excuse me. Right. Let's use our wooden spoon here. That's better. Now here's our carob paste. Our carob paste we're now going to add to our cake mixture here, or should I say my creamed butter and sugar. In we go, the carob paste with the creamed butter and sugar. Put our bowl down there. Now let's combine this. This is looking very interesting. Should have got the kids in here to do this. It beats Play-Doh. Right. When I was a kid, I used to look forward to licking the bowl, or a real treat was licking the beaters on the Sunbeam Mixmaster. But those days have long gone. So here we go. We've successfully merged our carob paste with our butter and sugar. It's looking very nice and smooth and creamy. Let's put that over there. Let's grab our milk and add our secret ingredient here, our lemon juice. Now that is our egg substitute. This is now sour milk, and it does a wonderful job of raising the cake and making it nice and soft. Actually, one egg contains your daily allowance of cholesterol, so without using eggs in this cake, you can also give yourself a healthy boost to your diet. Put our milk aside, bring in our flour, our sieve, and our bowl. Let's add our bicarbonate of soda, our baking powder, a pinch of salt to our flour, and gradually sieve our flour and all those two ingredients, three ingredients actually, into our other bowl. You need a few bowls for this job, but I guess if you had to, you could keep using the same bowl and wash it out each time, but it's good to have a nice set of mixing bowls. You know, that's pretty simple. Sift that into there. Right. Now comes the interesting part. We're going to add this and this into this. Well, it's pretty basic. A slurp of sour milk. And a bit of that. Notice how I measure my ingredients very accurately. A slurp. A slurp is a very special kitchen measure. At this point in time, I'm going to bring in my whisk for some heavy-duty mixing, like so. Good exercise too. Now, a bit more milk. Oops. And a bit more flour. Now, an interesting thing to note is the type of flour that you're going to use. You definitely have to use cake flour rather than bread flour. The reason is, and there is a difference by the way, is that bread flour contains more gluten. Have you ever made a cake batter or a pancake batter before and found it's really sort of elastic, stretchy? It's probably because you've used the wrong flour. You need a very low gluten flour for making cakes. I've used an all-purpose baking flour today, which is very nice for the job. Otherwise, you can specifically ask for cake flour rather than bread flour. It does a much better job. So if you notice here what I'm doing, I'm alternating the dry mixture and the wet mixture here and gradually whisking it in. And this is our actual cake batter. So we're getting very close here. There's the rest of our milk, the rest of our dry ingredients. Adjust myself for the final big whisk here. And we've got ourselves a batch of carob fudge cake batter. Now, of course, this is for 2 cakes. The reason is that we're going to bake 2 cakes and then sit them on top of each other with a nice filling of jam and cream. So there it is, our cake mix. So let's grab a couple of cake tins, like so, and escort our cake mix into our tins. A slurp in there, and a slurp in there. These cake tins, by the way, have been buttered so as not to stick. Here we go. Last splatter of cake batter. That rhymes. Let's mix our batter into our tins here very carefully. Smooth it out. This looks like a lovely mixture, I must admit. Right. Smooth this one out. So there it is. Excuse my fingers here. We've got to bake this now on a 180 Celsius, 355 Fahrenheit oven. So both of our cakes are going in, and we'll let them cook to perfection. While we're baking our cakes, let's make our icing. Here's our icing sugar, butter and carob powder. Let's sift our icing sugar into our big bowl, like so. This reminds me of the first time I helped my mother make cakes, a long time ago. All right, let's put our sugar aside, put our butter into our big bowl here. Now we're going to get every drop of butter out of there, whip up our butter. It's easy to do when the butter's at room temperature. Okay, our butter is beaten. Now the next thing we're going to do is to blend our carob powder with our water. Move the butter aside. Let's put our carob powder into there. We've got some warm water sitting over here on the stove. Let's add some water. And we're going to mix this up. Use our chopstick this time. Sort of a merging of cultures there. Maybe a dribble more water. A dribble and a slurp and a splash. These are all very technical terms known only to a few rare cooks. Okay, there's our carob paste. Carob paste goes aside. Now, we're going to put our butter and our carob paste into our icing sugar alternately. So, a slop of butter, that's a new one, a slop. A schloop of carob paste. We're going to alternate like we did before. First of all, we're going to mix this up. We want to make an icing which is not too wet and not too dry. So that's why we're adding little bits at a time till we reach the desired consistency. Right. A bit more butter. And a bit more carob paste. So, I'm exhausted. The icing's ready. The cakes are cooking merrily along in the oven. I think I'll go and get myself all psychologically prepared for the kids. Woo! These are remarkable. Rather warm in there. That's the idea, I suppose. Right, here they are. Look at these lovely, put them on our cake rack. Lovely cakes. Spongy, light cakes. These are actually cooked to perfection. So what we have to do now is to put our cakes aside and let them cool down for about an hour or two, and then we're going to fill them with cream and jam and lovely Vienna carob frosting and put strawberries on top and make it look absolutely wonderful. I made a cake yesterday and I decorated it with the strawberries and the cream and the jam and everything, and it's in the fridge right now. Let me show you. Wow, what a magnificent cake. The kids are going to be swinging off the streamers for this. I don't think they'll miss that piece. Actually, a party is not complete without a cake. And this is the one. Carob fudge cake. You know, everybody likes a vegetarian burger. And kids especially like to chomp into them. When I was working at the Gopal's restaurant, I invented a fabulous burger recipe called Gopal's Famous Veggie Burgers. They were a great hit, and I'd like to share that recipe with you. Have a look at the very interesting, tasty, healthy ingredients in our vegetarian burgers over here. For a start, we've got a cup of cooked short grain rice. It should be nice and sticky. 1.5 cups of cooked, cooled, very, very soft brown lentils. You notice they should be as soft as anything. They just melt away. We've got 1/2 cup of freshly grated carrots over here, 1/2 cup of peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce or tamari. We've got a teaspoon of Chinese sesame oil, 2 teaspoons of dried basil, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, a teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of yellow asafoetida powder, a very important savoury item from any Asian goods store. You'll be able to obtain this stuff. 1/2 cup of chopped fresh parsley and a teaspoon of sweet paprika. And to bind it all together, 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with the health dangers that are there in eating meat these days. So this is something which you can all relate to. A nice healthy burger that doesn't contain all sorts of nitrates and nitrites and all sorts of yucky things that you're likely to find in your meat department. What we really need to do with all our ingredients now is just bung it all together, as they say in Australia. Just mix everything in our big bowl to a nice paste, make it into patties, and pan fry them. And as you can see, we have a whole range of lovely things here to put inside the burgers. You could use rings of tomatoes, slices of cheese, gherkins, olives, or lettuce, all sorts of sauces, mustard, anything that kids like. Nice healthy ingredients, and you can't really go wrong. So let's pop it all in here. We've got our rice. If you prefer, you can use a nice sticky short grain brown rice if you prefer that nice nutty flavour that brown rice offers. We've got our lentils. Now it is very important that you cook these until they're really soft, and that rice should be as sticky as possible. Let's put our carrots in there. I must admit, it took me months to figure out this recipe. I was trying all sorts of different ingredients. I was there slaving away in the kitchen, trying to come up with a nice burger recipe. And I think I've found it here. There's our soy sauce and our sesame oil. Nice sweet paprika. That sesame oil gives it a very sort of an exotic Asian flavour that you can't quite put your finger on. Yellow asafoetida for a savoury flavour there. Some salt. A little herbal undertone with some basil and some oregano. And not least of all is our peanut butter, which gives it a nice, how would you say, a nutty taste, I guess is the best way to describe it, and a lovely facility to bind it all together. Now let's get in there and squish it all up. I guess that's the best way to describe it. These are actually really rich in protein. The peanuts and the lentils make it a very, very protein-rich burger. It's interesting to note actually that there's quite a myth about protein. People say, oh, you're a vegetarian, well that's fine, but I think really you've got to eat meat because meat gives you a certain type of protein which isn't available in vegetarian food, but that's actually not correct. Of course, kids need protein, especially for growth and maintenance of tissues in the body. But really, when you eat high protein food, the body doesn't distinguish where that protein came from, whether it came from lentils or whether it came from meat, because as soon as the protein hits the system, the body immediately breaks it down to its constituent amino acids. And then really there's no difference between there's no such thing as a vegetarian amino acid and a non-vegetarian amino acid. Amino acids are amino acids. So as soon as the amino acids are available, it didn't actually matter at all where they came from, whether they came from a steak or whether they came from a cupful of lentils. So really, if you're very careful about eating a balanced type of diet as a vegetarian, you never have to worry about protein. So our dough's looking pretty good now. It's one of the nice things about this burger dough or burger mix, if you like, is that it all comes together very nicely in a lump. The peanut butter and the different types of oils there keep it together in a nice smooth lump. Let's cut these into 16 patties, I think. 16 juicy veggie burgers. So there we are, 16 lovely burgers. I'm going to pan fry them now. I turned on my pan a couple of minutes ago to get it nice and hot. Let's butt these up next to the fry pan. Let's put a little slurp of olive oil in there. I like olive oil a lot. It's a lovely cooking medium. And let's put, say, 4 burgers in here. Like so. I'm going to pan fry them. Gently, gently, until they get nice and crispy, crunchy on the outside, nice and hot. And then we're going to slap them into our bread rolls there and get them all ready to go. Well, don't these look truly magnificent? It wouldn't be hard to convince a meat eater that these are actually meat. They certainly look meaty, if I may be allowed to use that term. So I'm going to fry up the rest of our little burgers here. And then I'm going to prepare the rolls and the cheese and put it all together and get everything nice and ready. Well, the burgers are coming on fine. We've got all our lovely stuffing and fillings inside here. We've got our piece of lettuce to go on top. Pop on our lid. And there we have our completion of a delicious, hot, juicy batch of Gopal's vegetarian burgers. Fit for a kid. Mm-hmm. Well, here's something to make when you're really in a hurry. The kids are coming around in half an hour for the party or something, and you're short of a savoury. Try making these lovely crisp lentil wafers. They're called papadums, and as you can see, they're made in about a second, 1 second each one. They're lovely actually for kids because they're crispy and crunchy. Kids like crispy, crunchy things, and they're also very nutritious. And there's actually many ways of cooking papadums. This way is probably the easiest way to do it, is to cook them in hot oil. But there are other ways too. But before I show you any other methods of making papadums, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Over here we have a selection of different types of lentils. Now you might think, well, what is the connection between lentils and papadums? Well, in fact, papadums are made from lentils. These are whole urad dal, these are split urad dal lentils, and these are mung beans, split mung beans. They're very high in protein. The way the papadums are made is that the lentils are soaked in water, they're made into a paste. That paste is then put onto hot rollers in a factory, and it's made into little rounds and dried very, very quickly. Of course, in the villages, like this is a hand-rolled papadum, they're actually dried in the sun. So whether they're machine-rolled or hand-rolled, they're actually very, very quick and easy to make, and as I said, very nutritious, and kids love them because they're crispy and crunchy. And if they don't like chili-flavoured ones, you can get the plain, simply plain variety. You can get them in black pepper, red chili, green chili, plain, all sorts of different flavours, big ones, little ones, middle-sized ones. You can get them at any Asian goods store. And you simply buy them raw in a packet and cook them up. Now, as you saw before, I was cooking a few chili papadums in the hot oil. I'm going to now show you another method of making papadums, and that is over an open heat source. Here in our kitchen we're fortunate to have this little machinery here in the middle with hot rocks. If you don't have one of these, you could try slipping your papadums under a griller. Very, very successful, and they cook very, very quickly. Or you could try popping them into a hot oven, or you can even try putting them in a microwave. I've done that also successfully. I don't use microwaves very often, but once I tried putting them in a microwave and they worked fabulously. In fact, you can cook a whole packet of papadums at a time. You do have to take them out the packet, but it's quite miraculous what goes on inside a microwave. This is another type of papadum. This is made from mung beans, and you can tell the difference because the mung bean papadums are very flexible, whereas the urad dal ones, they can snap if you bend them in half. I prefer the flavour of mung dal papadums personally. Now what I've got here is our nice hot rocks, and I'm going to put my papadums on there, and you'll notice quite an interesting transformation. This is probably the healthier way of making papadums because there's no oil involved. These are simply dry roasted, and they have a very, very strong, rich flavour. Dry roasted papadums are well loved in India actually because you can eat them after a meal and they help with the digestion. Now when you cook them over an open heat source like this, you should be very careful to turn them over as much as possible so that they don't scorch. There we go. Now, as far as deep frying papadums are concerned, there's a few little rules you should remember. First of all, the oil should be at least 185 degrees Celsius, that's 365 degrees Fahrenheit, quite hot. You'll need a colander with some paper towels inside to catch the drips of oil, and you need a pair of tongs, something very reliable that's not going to fail you halfway through because you don't want to spill any oil on yourself. And make sure your tongs are easy to open and close. Pick up your papadum in your tongs and lower the whole papadum inside the oil like this. Let go of it. Let it puff up. Leave it there for 1 second. Turn it over for 1 second. Lift it out and hold it this way so it drips down into the oil. Give it a good shake. Sometimes I even beat it on the side. For a few seconds as it comes out of the oil, it's quite soft, but then it stiffens up quite quickly. And then stand it up inside your colander so the oil runs downwards. I'll show you that again with one of our, maybe we'll use a chili one this time just for some variety. Pick up your papadum, slide it in, let go of it for a second, let it cook for 1 second, turn it over, and immediately lift it out. Hold it upright while it's still flexible, beat it on the side, shake off all that oil, and lift it over to the colander. And actually, you can get a routine going after a while. You can be cooking hundreds of papadums in an hour if the need arises. Like so. And it's actually one of the easiest type of Indian breads to make, and believe it or not, one of the most popular in our restaurants, I know for a fact. The kids really woof them down. They're a great party favourite. Crispy dal wafers, papadums. Well, that's it for this edition of Cooking with Korma. I do hope you'll enjoy preparing these dishes as much as I've enjoyed sharing them with you. Happy and healthy eating.